used it to his advantage, man, because you're not alone, right? Like,
you're right.
You clearly have overcome some adversity, and I think that's why I started this podcast, was to talk about the things that could have stopped you. Like, your life could have gone completely different ways, and to relate to you, my oldest brother, who almost turned 50 this year, passed away this year. He was a drug addict for 30 years.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that.
35 years.
If you don't mind me asking, how did he die?
Crazy enough, he was hit by a car after 35 years of being on meth, heroin.
He made it through all that, got hit by a car?
Yeah, crazy life. And this happened off of like Walsham at 4 a.m. Who knows what he was doing? Right. You know, he finally had made it back to San Antonio and was in rehabs or halfway houses or whatever. But we figure he was still doing God knows what.
Right.
But yeah, after all of that, got hit by a car. And it blew my mind. I mean, that was the most shocking part about it. I thought for the last 10 years we would get a phone call that was like, he overdosed. He probably overdosed 15 times and got to the point but came back from it. But yeah, I mean, I look at you were just talking about your life. Your life could have gone that way, man. So in this podcast, and I guess we are live now. This is The Guru and the Good Dude. I'm Tim Warlow, the Guru. I'm with the good dude, Logan Fullmer. And before I get into questions about you, Logan, because there's so much that you're doing all the time, I want to tell, like, the first time I actually saw you was, actually we both used to do auction. I used to buy property at auction as well. You were buying property, and I saw you guys bid on a lot of stuff. I used to work with Hunter and Tim Macy, who's a friend of yours. But I was doing a rehab project in Dignity Hill, and I had to go to the Historic Commission to get it passed, which, as you know, is so fun to stand up.
It's like walking the plank.
You stand up there in front of a bunch of idiots who know nothing about real estate, and you have to explain to them why you need to add a certain type of window or add on to this house. And anyway, I saw you go before I went up, and I was like, man, this guy knows his shit. You were so prepared. You pushed your project through. I think at the time you were doing a pretty big project in King William.
Oh, okay.
It might have been King William or the one you did on Grayson.
No, yeah, it's that one. It looks Grayson. Like a King William one, but yeah.
Yeah, beautiful office.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were beating you up pretty good because you had a huge task in front of you.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, he's really handling this well, and I could tell you'd done it before.
I'm proud of the way that one went, because in the past I did a 2-year zoning project in Dignity, and it was the worst experience of my life. And one of the reasons I decided to not really be a developer. And I remember just beating my head against the wall, losing problems one after the other. And I remember going back and saying, I'll never ask for something that's that far out of what I think they'll take anyway. But I also lost my cool so much during that process. I was like, these people are stupid. I would tell them. I mean, it was a really bad experience.
Yeah.
And this go around, there's a lot more diplomacy. I wasn't going to push anything that was too far out of bounds anyway. And it just smooth sailing. And I remember feeling proud about it. But also, that was like a very big evolution of lots of messes.
Well, I know when you first get into it and you have to stand there in front of a development committee or a zoning committee, and
you're like, this shit is crazy.
So frustrated.
Yes.
It's so frustrated. But the crazy thing is, the more you show that side of it, the more they push back and the more they want to prove their power.
Yes.
Isn't it sick?
I want to throw up right now.
Yeah. I witnessed it because there was another project happening off River Road. They were trying to do a development at River Road at the time.
I watched a year of that.
It was a year of one after another meeting where I watched. There's a historical council member, Chris Fish, I think, or Fisk, and I watched him ask this kid who was working for the development firm, "Tell me how drainage works." And we're like, You don't need to know.
This is supposed to be historic.
Your engineer is sitting here going, we've already approved the drainage plan. And he's like, well, explain to me how drainage works. This is the type of time wasting that they go through. And you and me and 20 other people are sitting there waiting while this kid goes, oh my God, so water comes off of a roof and it goes, you're like, So anyway, if you lose your cool though, they push back. I had a situation like at that project, that house, where we had come in, we were on the final stages, the house was done, it was beautiful. Pretty much everything was approved. So I went in and I was doing landscaping, and I was doing it myself because we were just like ready to be done with the project. And I don't mind stuff.
And at
like
the end, you're usually out of budget. So you're like,
right.
I gotta get this across the line.
So I laid down a little bit of sod, and we bought some nice little plants and put them in front of the house. Nothing crazy, like little yucca cactus type stuff, easy to maintain. And the next week I got a notice from the historic council that my plants were not historic enough. And I about lost my fucking mind. And I just ignored it, and I had somebody move in. I was like, what are you going to do? You gonna rip my plants out?
Right.
This was a crack house before. There were literally prostitutes.
And you don't like my yuccas? Get out of here.
I'm like, this house literally had crackheads and prostitutes living in it, and you don't like my yucca. Okay. Yeah.
It's a very broken system. I remind myself sometimes those are the decisions that have shaped the way our business has gone, so I don't have to have those experiences. And I get to play in an area where I get to make decisions very independently, and we're just not there. So it's been a good business shaping experience, but some of those dead ends are just like, and off ramps are horrible.
It is. It's gut wrenching.
And if you don't have real like grit, dude, it ain't for you. Go do something else.
But man, you leaned in. I've watched you're doing, I think you're called the like Dirty Deeds guy or something.
Dirty
right?
Deeds.
Are you Dirty Deeds? Yeah. So you leaned into problem solving, and like you found a niche that really nobody else was in, fixing entitlement issues, easement issues, opening up land for development that most people would just say, hell no.
Yeah.
So what led you to that path?
So when we were doing the auction stuff, it was a great time to literally buy property and fix it up and resell it. Or if you're getting it at the auction, many times you can buy it and put it on MLS and make money. I like that because I'd remodeled in the past. I'd done some of this entitlement work like zoning, platting, and bringing, higher use through entitlements. And I just loved being able to buy something for less than it's worth and reselling it. It's so much easier and so much lower risk and so much quicker. Mm-hmm. But when folks started coming to the auction and paying bigger money, margin shrunk.
Our average deal went from about 19% to 11% within a year.
And you're watching it keep going. So you're like, I see where this is headed. I'm going to get off this ship because it's going down. So I started going to people directly and buying before the auction. It was still a form of distress. But I remember doing annual like deal reviews and just saying, where are my best deals? Who did I get them from? What did they look like? What's the character? And I started to find that property that had multiple owners, judgments, liens, tax problems. When I had to call a lawyer or really dig to like figure something out, I thought those are the deals that were just the best margins. And a lot of people don't say that, but I'm very opportunistic. And every time I encounter a big problem, I would say, I'm not doing it. Oh, wait a second. I will at this price. And that's where a lot of people miss it. Right. They either say, no, it's not going to work, or they do it for the pride and ego, and good job to them. Where I think I won is I go back to the sellers and say, this is a train wreck. I'm out. Only way I'll touch it is if you'll take like itsy bitsy dollars, and then I'll go fix the problems. To me, that was a big thing.
Yeah.
And at that time, when I recognized those were the best deals and intentionally, this was in 2017, I did the review. 2018, I said, I'm going to look for these intentionally. That never looked back.
Never look back. Well, I think that's a good point to actually step back in time. And I know that before you got into real estate, you were in the oil field.
Yeah.
But I actually like people to go back further and tell their story where they want to start. Where are you from? How'd you get into what you're doing today? But start wherever you want.
So dad was a farm boy, grew up in Iowa, wound up at Florida International University, became a CPA, super high GPA. He had some psychiatric issues and some alcohol problems, but the IQ, like all that was like off the charts. Mom was in the sales profession. She actually worked for George Bush's office when he was a mayor in Houston before he became president. She worked there, wound up in the education field, and wound up in sales, radio, and then real estate. So that's kind of both of their career paths. So there's a little finance from where I've been from, and then also sales and real estate. It was interesting. But my parents split, and economically speaking, things weren't great. So we went from like having a stable household. Dad was a CPA, and now you split household, incomes are shot. Like it was not fun. Me and my siblings didn't cope well with that. You know, we were basically like, my dad was living in a seller financed house. My grandma paid $5,000 down because my dad didn't do a good job of paying bills. It was not fun. Didn't have, like, we had these window units at work sometimes and didn't. I'm like, man, what the heck happened to like what we had, you know?
Yeah. How old were you when that happened?
That was 4th, 5th grade range.
Yeah, that's a tough time.
So, you know, it is.
You're about to start coming into your own personality, and you're dealing with that at home. What was
your foundation is shaken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was school life like for you at the time? Were you good at school?
There are a lot of times where I didn't have the good grades, but like I have all these notes from like teachers and parents and meetings, and like they said the kid's bright, but his grades are terrible, and his focus is bad. And of course, my mom's showing up like, well, we're having problems at home, and his dad is this, and we're going to court, and like now I understand what's going on, but at the time I'm just foundationally shaken. But what stood out to me is we didn't have a lot of money, and I hated the way that felt. And this was 7th grade. Come home from the bus. All of our stuff's being moved out in the yard by a sheriff. I know what this is like because this is part of my life today on the other side. Dad didn't pay the mortgage. He got foreclosed on. We are moving out on the street. Kids are watching me walk off the bus to my house with all our stuff in the yard. And I immediately feel like the smallest piece of crap in the world because you're a child.
That's brutal.
It sucked. We moved into the neighbor's house. That dude just got divorced. My dad literally cut a deal in the yard to move in with him and start splitting the rent. Like,
I guess that could be worse.
Yeah, it was just like, that's what our life was like. But around those times, I'm like, man, if I can affect this stuff in the future, I want to affect it. And at those times, I realized money matters. I want to make money. At that point, I'm like buying bike parts, trading. I got a job at a bike shop. Like, I'm trying to figure out economics.
Bicycle?
Yeah, bicycle.
So was that your first job?
Bike shop, yeah.
That's awesome, man.
So I'm buying, trading bike parts, working at the bike shop, but I'm getting paid. And I'm like 16 years old. I got to buy a car. You know, like, I got to figure this out. So that's a fun part. So the boundaries aren't quite there yet. I'm young, ups and downs, whatever. And there's a friend of mine who, his parents were doctors. They had all this nice stuff. Another friend of mine was like always a wheeler and dealer. We're at his house after school one day, and he brings this sheet of 8.5 by 11 with $3 bills printed on it. They're 50s. And I'm like, Clayton, what is this, dude? And he's like, this is money. And I'm like, no, this came out of that printer. We get to talking. He's got this bright idea. So Nishu, Clayton, and me print out a ream of 50s.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to earn money. Like, this is money. We just printed it. So we went on this, like, I don't know what Nishu did with the money. I was taking it to Austin. I just bought a car. So I'd go to Austin on the weekends and go where guys are selling flowers on the corner and buy it, and the change is real. Go to hamburger shops, not big businesses, and exchange it into real money. So I'd take, $3,000-4,000 and I'd come home with $2 or $3,000 in like real money.
Wow.
So that was like,
did they look real?
Yeah. Well, looking back, they probably didn't look great, but they changed at a lot of retail locations. So it worked.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, I'm going to make some money. Well, I'm sitting in class and 2 guys in suits show up. This was 10th grade because I was driving already. Yeah, 2 dudes with suits show up, take me out of class. I'm like, uh-oh, what's this about? Secret Service.
Oh my.
Clayton, I had some kind of plan. This was all wrong. Looking back, I would never come near it today. But at the time, I'm like, how does this work? So I'd go to Austin in different city, small vendors. This is my plan to not get caught. Clayton was going to the gas station and filling up with gas every 3 or 4 days with a 50 and getting the change at the gas station by his house. The 3rd week, he goes to get gas, and the police walk out of the back and arrest him. They're waiting for him at 7 a.m. on Tuesday. So Clayton rolls over. We all get arrested.
Was Clayton the one with money?
No, Nishu was the Indian doctor kid with money.
Oh, and you were saying you don't know what he did with it. But
no, we weren't as close.
But, I mean, part of it sounds like, not to make excuses for you, but it sounds like a bit of it was desperation. A bit of it was like,
I identify with kids who say I grew up in the ghetto. I had no options. Dude, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. You had a job, but clearly it wasn't going to pay you enough.
Yeah, the job was okay. It was more money than I ever had. But when I found an opportunity to go make a couple grand on a weekend, it took me all month to make that. Back then at $6 an hour minimum wage.
Yeah.
So the crazy part is they both turned themselves in, accepted like 5-year federal probation. And my dad had his ups and downs. But one thing he did do is go talk to an attorney friend. And the attorney friend said, do not turn yourself in. Do not make any more statements. Okay. Wait, we'll figure out what to do. I literally never heard back from him for a week, a month, 3 months. My friends are on the probation. I'm not. We ended up finding out that the FBI, the Secret Service agent was running, got hit by a car and died like an auto accident. And it was a small enough case. They never reassigned it because they felt like they quashed it and got what they needed done. I never heard from him again, dude. Ever. Statute of limitations is run. I've checked already. Like,
that's insane, dude.
There's a lot of
guy
luck
got
there.
Hit by a car. Well, not for him.
Auto accident, but long story short, he passed away.
Yeah.
And they didn't reassign this tiny little counterfeiting case.
Oh my God.
I'll never forget. They picked me up from school, took me to the station. They're like, tell me the thing. And I'm like, what thing? What are you talking about? Tell me about all this. I'm like, I don't know anything you're talking about. I was just completely lying.
Yeah.
And then they're like, we know. Boom, boom, boom. And they lay a lot. I'm like, fuck, okay. So I start telling them a lot about it. But then when I tell them, they're like, well, where is it? I'm like, it's in my house in a shoebox. They're like, they didn't question me. We're like, let's go get it. So I'm getting out of that back of this, Crown Vic with these two guys in suits. My dad's walking out of the front door. I'm walking to the front door. He's like, Logan, what's going on? I'm like, they'll tell you. I go in the house and get this shoebox full of all this. And yeah, that was it. But you know what? I'll never forget getting the shoebox out. God, that was stupid as a kid. I'm pulling it all out. And there's part of it I put back in the shoe. Because I'm like, well, they're going to think I'm giving it all to them. They're not going to search my house. So I squirreled away a little bit of it. Now, after this was over, I ended up throwing it away.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, this is how crazy it was as a kid. Maybe I can still keep some of this.
Yeah.
Gosh.
So you get away with that, I guess, a little bit, but learn a little lesson. That's got to be scary, like Secret Service pulling up on you.
I thought I was going to jail for life. Like, one of the things they asked me is, what do you want to do when you grow up? I said, I want to be an architect. I'll go to the University of Texas. I want to do this. I was a kid. Yeah. They were leading me right into that. Well, you're never going to do that. You're going to go to federal prison. Like, dude, they got me, man. I was terrified, told them all. That was a huge thing in my life, though. After that, I continued to work at the bike shop and, had jobs, went to college and stuff. College was tough because I wasn't really studious. I got decent grades throughout grade school, middle school, and high school, but they were up and down.
Yeah.
College, a lot of drugs and alcohol really started then. I hadn't really, now that I'm an adult and have gone through a lot, I realized that I hadn't completely recovered from all these family trauma and instability and stuff. So there's a lot of insecurities there. I'm trying to cope. Drugs work, man.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So you leave high school and then you said you went to UT?
No, I didn't. I couldn't get into UT.
Oh.
I got into Southwest though, Texas State.
Yeah.
So.
Party school.
Right. A lot of that.
So you were studying architecture though?
No. So I actually went to junior college in our town for the first 2 years and then had to get my grade just up enough to get into the school. So I got in there, did the business school. At that point, I realized I'm not going to be an architect. I'm interested in money, finance, business. Business school.
So you get into school, but you immediately, just like everybody who goes to college, start partying.
Yeah, it is different. Like I started doing alcohol and pot in high school, like
Sure.
a lot of other people. But people would like get hurt and they have painkillers. I'd try that. Next thing you know, I'm doing other recreational drugs, like harder drugs. And, then there's like, then needles, IVs, like if it works this way, I hear it works better that way. Like I wanted to feel good.
Yeah.
And I would continuously believe that made you feel better because I saw these other people doing it. Yeah. And if it worked good this way. So yeah, it got real serious.
Yeah, man. And then it's kind of the typical story from there. You develop an addiction and
10
shit
years
falls apart.
Just holding on, just able to keep jobs, just able to earn enough to fuel this addiction. Yeah, it was a weird place, but I did find myself eventually in 2009 was the first time I wound up in rehab. No, 2011. And yeah, that had to happen. It was time.
Yeah.
It still took a couple years to really get clean. It ended up being at like the end of 2012 is when it finally took. A buddy of mine called from college, said, hey, do you want to come work with me in the oil field? He had a kind of a checkered past too, but had made his way in the oil field. Like he had his shit together. It was going well. It's like, I'll take that job. Very pivotal point. Earning, had started to earn confidence because I was performing well. No distractions from home. I was finally sober for the first time in like 10, 12 years.
That's crazy.
That was a big thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you start making money and you're in the oil field. What were you doing?
Well, a piece of this that I failed to mention earlier is between me and my brother and sister, we inherited a 7-figure inheritance when my grandma passed away.
Yeah.
So that made the drug addiction thing. I didn't have to work for a little while, had plenty of drugs, a Porsche, I bought a house. Like, I thought this money was going to last forever. It didn't. It lasted for like 2.5 years. It goes quick.
Wow. It sounds to me like,
my parents didn't have that level of money. Grandparents did. And when they passed, that's how it came down.
yeah. But it sounds to me like the trauma of what happens a lot of times with people with trauma in their life is that they stop developing at that point.
Absolutely.
And so if your parents got divorced and it really affected you when you were in 4th to 6th grade, a lot of times kids stop developing at that point. And then you you have independence in college, but you're still mentally like a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old. And then you get all this money and you're like Richie Rich and you're buying the water slide and the mansion and the Porsche. And it's really hard to get out of that. And it sounds like something broke inside of you that was like, this has to change.
I'd spent all the money. I was living at my friend's house in Austin. I had $5,000 left. I sold the Porsche. Like I was literally down to $5,000.
Wow.
He and I were trying to build fences to like build a little business or something. But I was just finally sober. And I'm like, man, I'm almost out of money. I'm living on my friend's couch. I really don't have anything left. And some people's bottom is like living under the bridge. Mine wasn't. Mine was just completely flat out. Plus 10, 15 years of that stuff. Like, dude, my friends are like post-college. They're getting married. They're having families, going on vacations, and I'm like this deadbeat living on my buddy's spare bedroom. Like I'm a freaking loser, and I finally start to like look in the mirror and understand that.
Yeah, that's so.
But the sobriety allowed that vision, that clarity, to be able to look in the mirror and say, "Yeah, dude, you can't hide from this. You really are a loser. You don't have your shit together. You do need to do something about it, or this is going to be you."
Yeah, and up until that point, people like you use drugs and alcohol to like hide that insecurity.
That's
You're
it.
saying the sobriety lets you like look at yourself truly,
Double-edged sword.
and then do something about it.
It's a double-edged sword, man.
Yeah.
It reveals all this, but now you have to deal with it. You can't hide anymore. You got nothing.
Well, so that brings us up to mid 2010s. You're working in the oil field.
This is when it gets fun. This is when I was, God, this sounds strange. I've never talked about this stuff with anybody publicly ever. So this is new. But thinking through this is where I would say my life started.
Yeah.
Job goes good, working hard, positive affirmation, confidence, promotions, income. And I'd blown all this money. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, like it takes forever to earn money. When I'd gotten all this big one deposit,
You're
like
working for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hoarding this money. I'm counting every penny. I'm running Excel sheets, managing every dollar. Like I ain't running out this time, man. Big difference.
Yeah. So you went from an abundance mindset to a scarcity mindset.
Interesting point.
Yeah.
And today I'm at an abundance mindset, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Huh.
Interesting. So you're managing your money better. You're not really spending it because oil field guys never, other than buy the Camaro and, go to the strip club on the weekends, they don't spend their money.
Which I couldn't do anymore because I'd lost, my pass for all that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm living in the RV, working, getting per diem money and truck pay and all this stuff. And I'm just staying in the man camp of the RV, hoarding every dollar. This is where it gets interesting. A couple of years in, I'm like, all right, man, I feel like I got my shit together. Still can't drink or do drugs. I think that's over with finally. But I'm like, I got to do something. I'm capable of more than this. This is great. But the dudes who own this $100 million company, like I'm in meetings with them. One of them was my boss for a period when that was my job. And I'm having these realizations. This guy's not smarter than me. He's not harder working than me. Why do I not have what he has?
Yeah.
There had been more time. He had more miles on the tires, yada, yada,
Yeah.
So I thought maybe I'm capable of what he's capable of.
But at some point he had the same thought. And he made a change.
He did something.
I see it with every entrepreneur is that same kind of thought is man, if this guy can do it, I can do it. Right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not even like egotistical. It's just, I'm not an idiot. You know, I'm a smart guy. I'm a hardworking guy. And there's only so many hours in the day. So it's how you spend the hours. Yeah. And
I never thought about it egotistically. I've never thought like I'm better than him.
Sure, of course.
I remember thinking I'm at least as good as him.
Yeah. 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 And you want what they want. But what was the drive for you? Because if you're a single guy, you're making good money, you don't really have a lot, and you're an employee, doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of other fulfillment. So what did that feel like?
So today I know my addiction was still alive and raging. It is today, actually. That addiction is healthy. It's my personality too. It's in my blood. It will never go. I do work to manage the negative characteristics about it, but that addiction was looking for something to work on. And I started to find the more I went to work, the more I learned. Like I'd come home at night and research project management. I'd take the PMP professional book and start figuring out how are they tracking this stuff? How do they manage it? How do they produce their reports? I'm like addict on this stuff and get good. So I realized work, earning, self-actualization became the focus of the addiction.
Was there anything you were like reading at the time for inspiration, or was it mostly training on like the job you were doing?
A lot of the job, yeah.
Yeah. So you hadn't really broken into like the entrepreneur mindset yet.
No.
When did that transition come for you?
Because I started saving and money was building up in the bank account. And I remember thinking, oh, I got to do something with this. Like I got a resource finally. And I remember looking around all these cities and Googling, and I was from Midland to Laredo. Well, San Antonio is the big city that's anywhere near them. And after a month of just like getting all the hours I could and no days off, I'd take 2 or 3 days and come to San Antonio. And I remember thinking, wow, this is like a big city. And I started looking around at real estate, and I thought maybe real estate's the way. I've been fascinated with it forever. And I found I'm connected with some people I went to college with, just all this information. I remember thinking, I found I can buy a lot on the east side of San Antonio for $5,000. It's not worth any more. It's not worth any less. It's $5,000. But I thought it's an infill lot. It's got a road that goes to it. It's got utilities. Like a house was once on here. It's got a water meter. You could put a house here for $5,000.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, how could it ever? I'll never forget. I remember riding around on my bicycle and writing down these addresses and put it back in my pocket and keep riding. And I remember thinking, how could it ever be worth less?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the original thesis. How could it be worth less? My downside is protected.
Man, that's a very interesting take. How could it ever be worth less? Yeah, 5,000, and now look at it. Even the worst lot on the east side's $100,000.
So what happened is I started saying, okay, they couldn't be worth less, but I'd seen East Austin change, and I'd been exposed to what happened in some of the areas in Houston. I thought, if anything happens in San Antonio, this could happen. Little did I know it was going to be happening in a year or two.
Yeah.
But I just started knocking on doors. My mom was a realtor at the time. So I'm asking people, can I buy your lot? You own the lot next to you. You inherited this, whatever. And just started buying those $5,000, $10,000 at a time. And just kept buying and spent most of what I'd saved up at that point on them. And I'm not watching the market. I'm just buying them from these people for what they said it was worth on CAD. I'll never forget, I get a call from this local broker here, Scott Maloof.
Yeah.
Him and Jev say, okay, yeah. They're like, I got this client who wants to buy one of your lots. I'm like, how do you even know I own this? They saw it in the appraisal district. It was on a corner. I said, yeah, okay. How much? $200,000. I'm in the thing for 20.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I don't think it's real. Well, it was. They sent me an offer. It was $189,000. I'm in it for 20.
And how long had you held it?
This is a luck part, dude. I was hoping something would happen. It could have taken 10 years. In this case, it took about 18 months.
Oh my God.
I was buying literally as all these off-market transactions were happening. It was pure luck, dude. I put it all in red.
You didn't even know it was happening.
No.
You just like.
All these off-market, so nothing was happening on market. It was all speculators coming and buying off-market. And I'm just weaving through the middle of them, buying these stupid little lots, and every once in a while, a little house. So what happened is when that deal closed, Jev and Scott did it. I remember going to this restaurant called Signature. I took Jev. I'm like, I never made this money one time in my life. I bought him like the most expensive dinner I had. Like, thank you guys.
Yeah.
More importantly, I realized I almost recapitalized for all the couple dozen properties that I bought. Almost recapitalized completely in this one transaction. All the rest of this stuff is about free to me now.
Yeah.
I now know the value is higher. I don't know what, but I darn sure know they're higher.
Yeah.
And right about that time, I get laid off from the oil field job.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, am I gonna be a real estate guy now?
Little bit of fortune.
Now's the time.
Yeah.
Things aligned well. Like if I had to tell you, okay, I've had this experience, I know what I'm doing, I can go tell someone how to plan this again. It doesn't happen. Can't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you were right place, right time. Right thesis, it sounds like. Can't get any lower.
Yeah.
Turns out it was worth about 20 times more.
You know, that I remember when the guy walked into my office to lay me off, I was terrified, but I wasn't. I felt like he was telling me that I wasn't good enough again because I was getting cut. Yeah, it's a layoff, I'm getting cut.
Yeah.
But I also remember knowing that I just cashed out a couple $100,000 and I got all this land and I'm like, I'm worthless to them. Wait, I'm not worthless in the world. I've done these deals. I have this money. Like, so I had this like dueling thing where like, I'm worthless here, but I'm not worthless over here. So it wasn't a full letdown. I was like, just because y'all don't see it, like, I think there is something here. So that was there were maybe half a dozen times in life that really mattered to me. That was one of them.
I see a parallel. So I tell my story as well as getting into real estate. And I got my real estate license while I was working as a medical sales guy. And then I went into diagnostics. I moved up the corporate ladder. So by the time I was like 24, 25, I had my license and I worked on the weekends. And I'm a global product manager for like a small company, but a company based out of London.
That's a good job at that age.
It was a great job. I was making 6 figures there and making a little bit more with real estate. And my wife at the time was 8.5 months pregnant. Ooh. And I get called into HR and they're like, so we love you, but we're cutting half of the marketing department and you unfortunately fell in that. And like even...
And how did you feel? Did you feel like I'm not good enough?
My boss was even like tearing up because they love me so much, but they're like, it wasn't our decision. And I just looked at them and at first I'm like...
Angry.
I was actually going to quit in like about a quarter.
Oh, so it's kind of on.
So in my head, I'm like, oh, this is great. But then I'm like, oh my God, my wife's going to have a baby next week. And I immediately like, there was no severance package. It was too small to have that kind of deal. And I had to go on like Cobra, which is $1,200 a month for the same insurance. And I'm starting.
Or you got to pay $20,000 to have a baby.
I'm starting to panic. And then I'm just like, you know what? Whatever. I leave the office, collect my things. And I go straight to the real estate office. And I'm like, guess what,
Like
guys?
the same day?
Same day. I don't even go home. I just leave and I go to our real estate office. I was like, I'm a full-time real estate agent. So that's about the time I got into do it, like auction and flipping and stuff. But a year later...
Dude, you had people depending on you at this point. Like back when that happened to me, it was just me. You had more on your shoulders.
It was scary. It was very scary, but like
that was a big moment in your life, dude.
And
big one.
Before that happened, when I got that job, I had asked them. They asked me how much I wanted to make to become a global product manager. Sounds amazing, and I was like, as long as I make 6 figures, like that's always been my goal. I'll do $100K and like a 30% bonus. And they're like, nobody makes that much money here. And this was 2014, and I was like, what, you guys have been here like 30 years. What do you mean you don't make that much money? Like, how? And so I wound up making like close to it, but not really. 2 years later, I left and I made like $275,000. And I saw my old boss at HEB.
Doesn't that just feel...
I see my...
I know you're not a monster, but inside you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah, so I'm at HEB and I really liked everybody there. They were good people, and I had no ill will. And he looked at me and he was like, "I'm so sorry. You were a great guy. I can't believe that happened."
You're like, "No, Jesus, like, thank you. I'll kiss you."
I was like, "I'm making more than the CEO of your company."
Bam! You couldn't hold that back, and it wasn't right if you would have. Like,
yeah,
that's part of what mattered so much.
I was like,
it's a validation thing.
It kind of, yeah, but also like I don't want them to feel bad. I'm like, you guys gave me. I was like, no, thank you so much. You released me from the corporate world, and I've been happily unemployed for the last 15 years.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. I love that.
It's a similar story.
Yeah.
You had already kind of started. I barely started, but you had maybe you didn't have that path in mind. Maybe you were like, I'm going to keep working this job. I'm going to keep using my money to buy more real estate, do these deals. I'll become a secret millionaire.
Well, similarly, what you said, I'm glad it happened because it was great timing, but I kept holding on because it was like, at the time I moved back into the office. I wasn't in the field. The pay went down, but I was making like 10 grand a month.
Yeah.
Working 8 to 5 in this office with my pressed jeans and clean shirts every day, no sweat. Like, it was a good job. And I wasn't about to abandon that.
Right.
Plus, my first deal just really panned out. But it was such great timing, dude. Yeah, I look back now and I'm like, man, you guys, I owe y'all so much.
Yeah. But did you see that first deal and see the economics of it and think like, oh, what if I could just do this?
Like fucking game over. All I get is one deal a year and I smoke this job. But if I happen to do 3 or 4, like I'm going to be rich.
Yeah.
That's the first time I ever thought in my life, I'm going to be rich like by myself. Like I can do this.
Yeah.
So there's all these things. When I got the job in the oil field, there's the confidence builders, the esteem, the production, the growth, the affirmation from those around me. So confidence, humility always stayed because I know where I came from. And I'm like, I could be a piece of shit loser again.
Yeah.
Anybody can. I've seen it happen. So like that's still in me. I've got to be careful.
Right.
But a lot of like really safe, strong, calm confidence was like, all right, dude, you got this. Come on.
You got this. You know what's amazing to me about that idea though is that like that's at the back of your head. And I think there's this perception like online you do have a lot of confidence. It looks like you got all this great stuff going on, but meeting you are such a humble dude. You're so like giving of your time, you're giving to your employees, you know, training constantly and doing these things. And I do think it's amazing.
Thank you.
How many people who are in your position, like influencers, who maybe didn't go through the trials and the tribulations you went through to get to where you're at. I think it's great to stay humble and keep that mindset. I meet a lot of people who don't stay that way, you know, and it's easy not to. You're making crazy money, you're doing all this crazy stuff, and all of a sudden that ego starts to build up. And I think getting over what you got over gave you the security to not have to have the ego.
The benefit of getting sober, one of the biggest things is your ego has to die or you will never be able to get over these problems to get sober. And that was I remember thinking when I was in treatment the first time, my ego started to die. It took a little bit longer before it really did, but I remember thinking like fighting that. And Mom's friend of mine worked at the facility and we had a lot of close talks in the hallway out there in detox. And I was very, very humbling. Like it was huge. And I just remember thinking, gosh, like it doesn't have to be like this, Logan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man. Well, that's awesome. Well, so I guess we're in the mid 2000 or 2010s. You've just got fired from your job. What happens next?
So I went home. So you went to the next office that day and said, now I'm full-time realtor. At this point, I'd learned to not make snap decisions. I'd learned to take a deep breath. You know, that's life moves fast, but if I can slow down sometimes, I can see what's happening. So I went back to my apartment, told myself 3 days, no decisions. I'm going to get great sleep. I'm going to do a lot of exercising, eat healthy. Like I'm just going to get like right in the right place and say, what am I going to do next? And I just intentionally use those 3 days, call friends, just, you know, all that. And I remember that after that, I couldn't help. There's these things in my mind where they're saying these little thoughts, call your buddy from this company, call your buddy from this company. It's like my backup plan, you know, go get this job, at, you know, stay in the industry. And after that third day, I remember sitting down doing a runway, like a cash flow exercise. Like, what's my burn rate? My expenses were still very low cost car, cheapest apartment. I lived on these apartments by the corner of Broadway and Bassey, about a block back. There's still the worst property in Alma Heights.
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
That's my first apartment.
Foundations are caving in right now.
Those guys bought that for a land play. They got a killer. It's a great play. But that was my home, dude. $600 a month for a couple years. But I remember going home saying, all right, my burn rate with the cash I got in the bank, I can make it a couple years. And I'm like, hold up.
Yeah.
I can at least live a couple years and no new dollar comes in. I thought, all right, I can go test this and see if I can really pull it off. And if it doesn't work in a couple years, I'll go get another job again.
Yeah. Plus you had all those properties.
Oh, I knew that was part of it, but I didn't know, is development slow? Am I going to resell them? Is now the time? What if those aren't worth as much as this one? Like there's all this stuff, the doubt. But I knew I had liquidity. And it was there, and it cost me this much a month. Right there, I had a couple years of burn. I'm good. I'm trying this. And that's when it became full-time real estate. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Let's go do it.
So what was the first thing you bought after that?
I did a couple flip houses, went to New Western, net worth, bought a couple $150,000 houses, 170 when it was done. I think I paid 90 or 100. You know, made 20 grand, 25 grand after little remodels. They worked. I was happy. And then I'm like, what's next? Mm-hmm. So I do a $300,000 house.
Yeah.
Made $70,000. I'm getting hard money loans, you know. Oh, man. And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to go do one in the expensive neighborhood. This is going to be a $550,000 house. Took a private loan from this guy I met at the auction. Oh, one of his clients, you know, like 400,000 or 400 something grand. I put a little bit of like 10 grand of my own money. Oh my gosh, I got to do this house. And it doesn't sell for what I think it was going to sell for. It cost me more to remodel it. And it took me 6 months longer. Dude, I had to come to the closing table with 50 G's. And at the time, it was painful.
Yeah.
But this was another one of those meaningful times. I came to the table with the money. I worked my ass off. I held open houses for 2 times a week for like a month. Everybody that came, I called them, scheduled meetings, got them back. You're going to make an offer. Like I just hammered it. Like my life depended on it.
Yeah.
Got the thing sold. And when I paid off that private lender, the CPA who I'd met, you know, down in the east side, because he had land and houses too. He was the one that connected me with this client through the private loan. He called me and he's like, man, you handled that well. I'm like, I just got fucking killed, dude. He goes, you busted your butt. You completed it. You did a great job. You sold that thing like it was anything you got left. And you came to the table with the money instead of hanging them out to dry.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's what you're supposed to do. And he's like, you want me to show you how to make real money? And I'm like, fuck yeah, please. Because like I'm in a slump.
Somebody please.
So here's what he says. He says, come by my office next week. So I come by his office and he has this little yellow book with all these properties listed that are going to auction. Mm-hmm. So he looks at it and he's like, so we're looking at addresses.
Little yellow book.
You know what I'm talking about. So we go through this process of vetting the deals, whatever. We're going to go to the foreclosure the next month. He's been doing this a while, but he was working at a big CPA practice and didn't really have as much time. So we kind of had this little agreement. I'll go do the diligence. He'll bring the money. We'll do these deals together. And after he gets paid back his investment, we'll split it. And I thought, great. I don't have to come out any more cash. I can be careful. So we did. We flipped auction houses for a year and a half.
Yeah. How many would you guys buy?
It was wacky, dude. Some month we'd go and get nothing.
Yeah.
Then one month we'd go get 2, 1. I got 1 month we got 3.
Yeah.
So it was really inconsistent, but my living expenses still cost me 50 grand a year to live at that point. So within 2 deals, my year is paid for.
Yeah.
So now I'm just like putting money in the bank, trying to figure out like, how do we make a real business out of it?
I miss when living expenses were just 50 grand. I'm like, make 50 grand now. I'm like, oh God, a lot of people to pay.
I spent that on social media ads last month.
Oh, yeah. So you start buying those houses, you're working with this guy. And that's the time that I was really active over there at the auction too. And I'm sure I saw you.
There were a lot of us kind of coming up around that time.
Yeah. We would do diligence on like 300 properties, 350.
And then you'd bid on what you could and you'd pick up a couple.
Yeah, but man, it was brutal. I actually knew right away, like, you know Hunter, right? Hunter Carter. Yeah, he had come up with this whole system, this auction caddy thing.
It's complicated.
It was very complicated. We would have people go drive. We'd pay them to take pictures of the properties. And I was always like, why aren't we knocking on these doors and making them offers right now? Like before they get there, you know?
Dude.
And I would try. It is pretty tough. There's a lot of like hate when people's houses going up for foreclosure.
It's hard.
And honestly, you want to save them from that. You're like, look, we can make you an offer right now. You don't have to have a foreclosure on your record. You don't have to wait. And as an investor, it makes so much more sense than bidding against 50 other people. It's just, right. I mean, you're dealing.
I'll let you stick around a couple months for free. Like, let's figure this out.
Let's figure it out. And it just never happened. And that's what was impressive about your story was that you weren't even really in real estate necessarily. You just had this idea. You wanted to pick up these lots and you go knock on the doors. And you know how hard that is to teach people to do. Like it's either you got it or you don't. And I have always got it. I love cold calling. I've come into your office.
You know what you're thinking? Here's what's happening. I know this because I watch new people come to our office and I decide, do they got it or not? I'm the same believer of that. If they don't have it, it's just in you. What is it that I need? How do I get that? I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
No one had to show you how to get a listing appointment.
Right.
No one had to show you. There was no technique. There was no skill. That dude's got a lot. I'm going to go knock on him and see if he'll give it to me. There was nothing about it that was more complicated than that.
Yeah.
But it was fueled by like a desire to be good enough, a desire to earn money.
Yeah.
And I didn't want anybody to get in my way.
Yeah. It's definitely something you can't teach. And I do try to teach it. I teach people cold calling. I teach people, but it's like,
you're better off training people that have it in them. You can get them good.
Exactly,
Try to make someone who can't do.
And a lot of the people on my team now, they do it. And actually, my girlfriend and I work together, Tori, and she has it more than anyone I've ever met. Like,
really,
she when she first came,
and she's a female, dude. I bet she's a beast on the phone.
She crushes. She has closed our biggest wholesale deal ever. And it simply, like, we'll go on walks, and while we're walking, she's like, "I want that house." Find them, text them.
Whoa.
They showed up that day and we signed and we made $80,000 on a wholesale deal in like 2 weeks. That was all her. I mean, I negotiated the deal and, I do my sales side with the people, but she sets up meeting after meeting. And then I'm like, will you show these people how to do it? She's like, there's nothing. What
do I show them?
What do I show them?
Yeah.
I text them and say, hey, do you want an offer on your property? And it just happens they do. So it's actually more simple than people make it out to be. It's just the drive. It's just the desire.
You're a doer.
You had it. I had it. She's got it. Not everybody has it.
When we hire, I look for that. I'm looking for attitude, aptitude, ambition, and ability.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. If they have that, we'll figure the rest of this out.
Yeah. Anything else can be taught. If like you said, nobody ever had to tell me, oh, you need to follow up with that lead. Why?
He hasn't sold to me. I got to call him 40 more times. He might sell to somebody else. I got to call him again today.
They're like, how many times do you call?
Until they say yes.
Until they say yes, or they tell me to fuck off.
Until they block my number or do the deal.
Why do I care?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm trying to help this person. I'm trying to help myself. Our job is to find mutually beneficial outcomes. What else is there, right?
Yeah.
I see your property. I have a buyer for your property. Beautiful. You don't want to sell? Okay, I'm moving on. There's so much opportunity out there. Like, why are you hung up on this number, the number of times you call somebody? I'm like, some of the deals I do have taken me 3 years to close, but I'm consistent. I call them every month, every 2 months, every 3 months, whatever. And eventually they are ready.
That's because you got it.
Yeah, I guess so. I think I've always kind of been that, like, I've always been that way. I think you've probably always been that way. It's not something that, it's just innate. It's a fire. It's a drive.
It's in your DNA. It's in your blood.
Yeah. Well, so talking about where you guys are now, I want to talk a little bit about what you've built now, because you went from the auction to probably, I'm going to guess you started picking up land at sheriff's auctions, which are, for most people, very obtuse. Like, I know how to buy a house at auction. It's a house. I buy it, I renovate it, and I sell it. Land at the auction is different in Texas because we are a deed.
We're a tax deed state.
Tax deed state.
Judicial foreclosures.
Yeah. So things are different. So explain how that works.
So I bought lots at the tax sale and houses at the mortgage sale. The houses at the mortgage sale were liquid immediately. You could sell them. At the tax sale, I liked land because it was lower cost. The taxes were low and I could afford to keep them. And I just remember thinking, well, I can sit on this stuff for a long time and I don't have to fiddle with it. I don't have to fiddle with tenants. Now, it doesn't have income on it, but I thought the thesis was there. And I'd already had some good luck doing it. So I thought, let me get more of these. But you've got to go bid. You got to pay cash or cashier's check. You can pay either.
Yeah.
By 5 o'clock that day, you have to get a bidder certificate and register for the auction. A lot of people just show up, but if you didn't get a bidder certificate the week before, you can't bid. Once you buy, if it is considered a homestead, not under the appraisal district site, but under Texas law, if it's actually, that's a different topic, but if it's considered a homestead, it's got a 24-month right of redemption. And if it's a non-homestead, it's 180 days, so 6 months.
Yeah.
So that means you can't sell it, title won't insure it because the person could redeem it and the title have to make a claim.
Right.
So you got to know you got to sit on these for a while. People rarely redeem them, so I don't never worry about that.
Yeah.
But you buy it, you got to sit on it for a little while.
Yeah, because most of the time these are owned outright. They're things people kind of forgot about, and then the county is just trying to get their tax revenue from it. So if somebody owes $20,000 in tax revenue, how much would you expect to pay at the auction for that?
So it depends. Back then, there were people that a lot of these would sell for $1 over the typical deal was $3,000 or $4,000, the typical debt, and it'd sell for $1 over. Like that happened so often. Now the market changed as time went on, but so we would go and buy them for that price. And at that time, the values have climbed to 15, 20, 25 grand range, and we're buying them for $3 to $5 grand.
Yeah.
Now there were times I thought the market was going to continue to rise. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to sell this. I can afford to sit on it for a little while. But there was also became a time where I'm like, all right, this is becoming a business. It needs cash flow. You got to do something. So then I'm like, oh, crud. Well, I can't. So the way the homestead laws work, homestead law is different than what title will insure for a homestead. Title says if there was a building on it, we call it a homestead,
right?
Because they want no risk. What the law calls a homestead is a different category. It's very liberal in Texas, but if there's a building on it, title won't insure for 2 years. That's just how it is.
Yep.
But I thought, well, how could I get them to insure it? And they all were like, we won't. And I was like, why? And they said, because this person can redeem it. And I said, well, what if I go to that person and get them to sign a letter that said they won't redeem it? Then they can't, right? Well, they still could. And I'm like, well, how can they not redeem it? And they're like, well, if they sold you their interest in the property, I'm like, but it's already sold at auction. Right, but they have a redemption interest. I'm like, well, what if I get them to sell me that? They're like, it's non-transferable. I'm like, right, but if they sell it, they don't own it anymore. If nobody else owns it, they don't. And they have no standing to make the redemption. Is that right? And they're like, yeah, that's right. So I got a warranty deed and changed the title and called it redemption deed and put some language in there. The lawyer helped me write. They were conveying their rights to redeem the property along with any right and title they may have still had.
You invented this?
I mean, maybe someone's probably done it before, but no one taught me. I'm just like, how do I fix this problem?
Right.
So then I go to these people and say, hey, dude, you lost your property at the auction. It's over with. I have a title cloud. I'll give you $500 for this document. $500. Now my shit's liquid. I'm selling property.
So now you don't have to wait 2 years?
Right. I can sell it immediately. The moment I get that document recorded in land records, boom, sell.
Would every title company honor that, or did you just find one specific guy?
They are divesting their interest in the property. They no longer have any interest whatsoever. It's over.
So you're good. No cloud.
Boom. Right. Time to sell.
Wow. Okay.
So we were able to buy property at the sheriff's sale that would normally, now everyone won't do it. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but we brought a lot of liquidity to the property that would normally have to sit on your books for a while.
Yeah.
So during that process, started getting comfortable talking to sellers more and more and being creative. And that was around the time where I'd looked at my deals over the year, because at this point I'm starting to buy from wholesalers. I'm calling people on my own. I'm buying at the auction, kind of a mix. And that's when I realized these messy deals were the best ones where I really made money on them. And right about that time, I remember thinking, I'm just going to look for these. So the current rendition of today's business really originated in that little era.
Yeah. So
Dirty deeds.
Dirty deeds, man. Well, and up until so last month, actually, you contacted me about doing a BPO, and we don't have to talk about the specific property, but you were like,
oh yeah,
you were like, I had to get 40 different people to sign off, 40 people, and you had to pay each one of them like a couple grand. 10
well, I didn't
grand?
disclose all this at the time because it was still fresh.
Yeah.
It actually was struck off to that municipality.
Yeah.
And then we agreed to redeem it to pay a premium, but found that there was a problem in the tax lawsuit. So went back to the title or to the tax jurisdiction and said, there's a problem in your lawsuit. You didn't serve these people and you didn't serve the unknown heirs. The ad litem made a mistake. This is a bad foreclosure. We're going to have to pay a 25% premium to redeem it so we can get it back with these people. But we want you to set the sale aside, or we're going to file a bill of review on that tax lawsuit under their names.
Wow.
And the tax jurisdiction was like, crap. So they set the deed aside, which means it was like the tax sale never happened. Property went back into their name.
Wow. Who owned it at the time? Who owned the redemption?
So when the property doesn't sell at the auction, it didn't sell.
Oh, I got you.
It went to bid and was like a couple $100,000 in taxes.
Right.
So it was struck off. If there's no bid, the county and the other like county, school district, roads and bridge department, all that stuff, they become the owners for the tax debt. They're the creditor.
Yeah.
So it was in Bear County, well, and others.
Yeah. That's just crazy, man. So you're getting into the most complicated types of land deals.
You know, it goes back to what I said earlier. I couldn't get it to sell. I would just ask why. Why? What if? What's next? If this, you know, today I've probably got 40 lawsuits going on. I haven't looked at our internal docket count right now, but we've found how to fix this stuff.
Yeah.
90% of it can be fixed with just agreements, settlements, documents, affidavits, instruments, but you do have to get in front of a judge to get some stuff solved. And that was something we were willing to make the investment on. We were willing to learn. So that became like, there's always a solve in the judicial system. If you can't fix it with the people, you can go there and fix it.
Yeah.
So the pipeline includes non-judicial resolutions, judicial resolutions, but it's fixing the worst problems like on properties.
So you've become like a de facto real estate attorney.
You know, I looked at going to law school several years ago and realized my kids are young and I didn't want to give up 3 years.
You just take
at
the
that
bar.
time. Well, frankly, I wasn't willing to spend the time because I realized I've learned all the parts of the law that affect my stuff.
You're making way more money than you would as an attorney.
That was the issue. So, I mean, I got a bunch of attorneys in our office now. The work works. I'm getting to manage people. I know enough about what it is I need to know.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, what's the future look like for you? I mean, you're in it. I know you last time I saw you at your office, you guys are building a team to do a lot of this, either wholesale work or, find deals for your own entities. But what's next for you?
God, I don't know. I never really did good at goals. I remember just going, telling myself, I'm going to do everything I can possibly do. And I hope it's a lot, and I hope it gets me a lot.
Yeah. Does that ever burn you out?
Yeah. It goes like, there are times where I get burned out, but an addict never gets burned out of being an addict. Well, usually doesn't get burned out. They keep coming back to that, flame in the night. Yeah. And there's a lot of that happening.
Well, I was going through a slump like a month ago, and I just woke up on a weekend. I just didn't feel like myself. And I realized it was because throughout my whole career, like I have been really good at setting goals, and I'm very driven anyway. But, every year I set some personal goals, professional goals, relationship goals, things like that. And then I just have one big goal. Like, what's the craziest thing you could try to do this year? Like open this business or
so what would be a goal of like that right now?
Well, one of those goals just actually got squashed yesterday.
Yes.
No, it's not going to happen.
Oh,
but I was working on opening up a virtual sim, like golf business, and had raised about $500,000 to do it, and secure, close to finalizing a lease on this place. And then news broke that there's one already launching like within a 2-mile range, and I just don't think it's going to work there anymore. So I was back to the drawing board, but I wanted to have that open by the end of the year, and I was so close, man. That's okay. I go find another goal, right?
Yeah. True.
But anyway, I was feeling that kind of burnout from just you're constantly, this, like sometimes you work for forever and you don't get paid. That's part of being an entrepreneur. You work and work and work and work and work, and then you're like, oh my God, when's that check gonna clear? Because like that's gonna be when I feel that sense of relief. And I realized it was because you get too caught up in the money, in the dollar, in the thing, and you're not looking at the big picture. First of all, 10 years ago, Logan, looking at who you are today, even a little further back, like drug addict Logan, going, holy shit, look at what we became. I started thinking about that. I thought 10 years ago when my son was born and I transitioned into real estate, like that Tim would be like, dude, you're fucking killing it.
You probably today are more than that Tim you would ever have.
Yeah, I don't think I could have imagined it, right? Like, I don't think I could have imagined what I've done and like some of the things that I've built. And so I had this moment of reflection and gratitude, and then I said, okay, what have I done over the last 10 years that has given me the most like joy, or fulfillment, or that sense of like that filling that little gap that I think I was looking for. And it was just sitting down and thinking about the goals of who I want to be, not what I want to have, right? Because I've always thought that who you are dictates what you get. What you're thinking about attracts the things that you need. And it's those types of thoughts that have really like inspired me, especially over the last couple of weeks. So I did this whole practice, and I actually used ChatGPT to go through and like ask me the questions I need and figure out what my goals are. And so I got back to like my physical goals of I set a goal of running 200 miles by the end of the year. So I've been running more to get my body fat back down, which is making me feel a lot better. You know, eating better, eating more protein, less junk food. And then financially, really, I want to finish the year with at least like closing at least 1.2 million in commission. We're like 65% of the way there, so we're getting there. And then personally, I have a lot of trips lined up the end of this year, but I'm planning a trip to take my son. He'll be 9 or 10 when we take this, but I want to take him to Ireland and Scotland because he just has this.
Is that where part of your family's from?
I mean, probably England, you know, something like that. But he's the one that wants to see it, and I'm planning that trip for us.
Dude, this is a great year for you, dude.
Yeah.
Slow down and remind yourself that's what you're doing.
And that's what I was doing, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like sometimes you forget.
Is this the best year of your life?
It's definitely up there. It feels good.
If you're growing, you have the best year of your life many times.
Yeah, and over and over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there are certainly years like, you know, last year, the year before that didn't necessarily feel like the best year of my life. This year definitely feels a lot better. But I do think it's a conscious reflection and gratitude that I always come back to. Like, grateful for how many friends I have, how many connections I have, for even if there's a little money in the bank, I know I can keep going, you know, whatever it is. Because as entrepreneurs too, you see that bank account go, whoa, and then it comes back down and it's like, whoa.
Speaking about how I know you though, I think you should be happy. You're a good dude. You've got a good reputation. You're a nice guy. You're smart. You're hardworking. You're successful. Like,
well, I know all
you
of
built
those
a
things.
person who anybody would want to be.
Sure. No. Don't get me wrong. These things just happen, and I'm sure it happens for you too, where you're like, I don't know why I don't feel like my best today. Maybe a series of bad things happen, but I reminded myself why, and then I went to my team the next week and I had everybody do it, and I was like, this week we're not talking about numbers. I did this thing. We're going to talk about who we want to be, and the goals that we set for ourselves are going to make us who we want to be to get the things that we want to have, but we're not going to talk about numbers. And everybody went through it. There were tears. There were people that were like, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm on this team. And so I think it's so important to like know people on that level. And so you can inspire those things, those parts of the life that make the money worth having or make the job worth doing. So I don't know.
That's cute. That gets buy-in from you, from everybody. It's a reassessment.
Well, and two, when you see them, you're not checking in going, hey, did you close that deal? You're going, hey, did you work out this morning? Did you read that book you were talking about? Did you schedule that class that you're going to take?
This is the human element, not the work, the business, the money. This is like, Corey's a human. Let's work on that.
Yeah. And I think
that's what drives all this other stuff.
It does. It's who you are. Like who you are gets you to where you want to be. So I definitely agree with that. But Logan, I mean, it's been awesome talking to you, man. It's been awesome to hear your story. See what you guys are doing out there. I don't know if there's what's your podcast called?
Dirty Deeds.
Dirty Deeds. Okay, great. Well, if you guys want to check out Logan Fullmer on Dirty Deeds, I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I look forward to seeing all the amazing things you do here in the future.
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Anytime. All right, signing off. Guru and the Good Dude. We'll see you guys next time.